time trial at the end of the meet? Fine. He said yes. He wanted me to check with you.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We apologize for those technical difficulties. It took a while to get the sound system going on top of having a scoreboard issue, but we are finally up and running and ready to go. So we are getting right into that men's 1,000 freestyle. You probably were able to see the medley relay for both the men's and women's and the 1,000 women's relay ahead of time. So a quick identification right here. My name is Coach Graff. I am a middle school and high school swim coach here at East Kentwood High School, as well as a USA coach for a local club team. I've been around swimming along, and it's my pleasure to bring the play-by-play for this meet. So today we have senior night for Davenport, and they are hosting Olivet Nazarene. In this heat of the 1,000, we have 4 swimmers swimming. We have Matthew Monday from Davenport in lane 3. Next to him is Mason Beal from Olivet in lane 4. In lane 5, Michael Nietzalak and from Davenport. And in lane 6 from Olivet, David Gann. Taking a brief look here, it does appear that Beal is in the lead based on those placard cards. He's getting into that last quarter of his 1,000. So he's had about the 750 mark. Has a good rhythm going ahead, not showing any signs of tiring. Meanwhile, Matthew Monday is really working hard to hold on and keep his pace as he comes to the wall. So again, the order right now as it stands, Beal is in the lead, followed closely by Monday, and Needslick working on that third place position. Meanwhile, Gann is holding on to that fourth. All right, this is about the time of the race where you want to make that move. You only have about 200 left. So if you're going to try to catch anyone, now is the time. However, it does look like Beal has a resounding lead, making up almost 25 yards ahead of the following swimmer, Monday, who is just getting to the wall now at the 200 mark. All right, the official is at the end, ringing the bell. That means that Beal is in his final 50 of the race. And after 950 yards, he still has some energy to kick it in and speed up. Meanwhile, in lane 3, Monday goes into his final 50, and he's increasing tempo. And that's going to be a 10:11:44 for Mason Beal from Olivet, Nazarene. Monday coming to the wall now with a 10:23:91 for that second place finish. Beal's PR before this race was a 10:15, so that's almost a 4-second drop for Beal there. And Gann brings it into the wall. Next event, the women's 200 freestyle single heat. So we're going to change pace into the sprint era now. 200 is technically a sprint. Of course, if you ask these swimmers, they might not agree. In lane 1, Aubrey Veltzen. Lane 2, Emma Norman. Lane 3, Aisha Schenk. Lane 4, Haley Briner. Lane 5, Rebecca Wallace. Lane 6, Kayla Doibel. Lane 7, Mackenzie Knowlton. And lane 8, Addison Daly. All right, coming into that first 50 here, pretty solid pack. We have Wallace in the lead, followed closely by Briner. It's still anyone's game here on that first 5 positions. And as mentioned before, this is still considered a sprint. However, there's a little strategy here. You don't want to go all out. Usually the body only can hold on for about 100 yards. So there is a little bit of push and pull when we think about that first half of the race. And you'll see that as we go into that second 100 now, there is a little bit more space opening up. We still have our 2 top swimmers in the heat right here, Briner and Wallace, neck and neck. But then that second, or that third and fourth place position is also in a tie here. All right, Wallace is starting to open up her lead going into this final 50. Let's see if Briner can catch her. Meanwhile, it looks like Shank is making a move on Doibel. Let's see if Shank can pull ahead. If everything goes to plan, that's going to be a 1-2 for Davenport, or a 1-3. All right, Wallace is going to hold on to that lead, coming to the wall here for a 155, followed by Briner. Meanwhile, Shank solidifies that third place, so Davenport's going to go 1-3 to a 2-4 Olivet finish. Right, it looks like someone accidentally dropped their cap in the water. Next event, the men's 200 freestyle. You usually see that at age group meets. But of course, if you have a cap in the water, it's kind of hard to start the next heat. And they're off. In lane 2, Gabe Carell. Lane 3, Brandon Tritzen. Lane 4, Timothy Brown. Lane 5, David Siskow. Lane 6, Jack Fries. Lane 7, Julian Lizea. Lane 8, John Carlos Fernandez. So those are your swimmers of the heat. Coming into that first wall here, we have Siskow in that first position, followed closely by 12 hundredths with Olivet's Fries. And it looks like Fries is actually making a move on this second 50, going into that 75 wall, and Fries is now pulling ahead. Siskow had a hard 50, but now he's given up a little bit of ground here going into the 100 mark. Meanwhile, that third, fourth position is still very much contested with Olivet's Brown slowly edging out Lizea. Fry's making his move. He's trying to open up that gap a little bit, but Siskow's not having it. Siskow making a charge. Let's see if he can make up that distance going into that final 50. Meanwhile, it's still a tie on that third, fourth position. Let's see if Lizea can actually get a little bit power going into this final wall so he can pull ahead. And that's going to be an Olivet win there. Fries with that first place, a 144.48, followed by Siskow from Davenport with a 146. Meanwhile, it looks like Lizea was able to grab onto that third place position for that third, fourth contention there. Next event, the women's 100 backstroke. Moving on to the sprint strokes, we have the 100 backstroke. Swimmers are in the water waiting for the start. In this heat, in lane 4, Rachel DeVries. Lane 5, Mikhail McBride. All right, these ladies are swimming for time here. Rachel DeVries in lane 4. And ahead of her, just by a little bit here, coming into that first wall, is Mikhail McBride. McBride capitalizing on the walls, making a little bit more distance off of each one. Meanwhile, it does appear that DeVries is actually doing a better job in the middle section of the lengths with her stroke. It looks like McBride is going to get a 102 and DeVries a 104 respectively. Now it's time for the scoring heat. Heat 2. In this heat, in lane 1, Anna Van Heidsma. Lane 2, Maylee Lingy. Lane 3, Cassie Scott. Lane 4, Paige Howell. Lane 5, Ella Wagner. Lane 6, Caitlin Inman. Lane 7, Mallory Brownrigg. Lane 8, Abby Christensen. All right, the 100 backstroke, really exciting here. Takes a lot of hard kick to propel yourself through the water in a race sprinty pace here. And that is something that Caitlin Inman has nailed down over years and years in the OK Red, and now she's bringing it to this meet. But is it going to be enough to get Ella Wagner? Because Ella Wagner here is going to be in that first place position coming into the wall. And it's going to be a close one with Inman and Howell. All right. Looks like Howell just edged her out by a couple hundredths there into the finish. Next event, the men's 100 backstroke single heat. So now it is the men's turn. There's only one heat to this event. So everything that each of these teams have in the 100 back is in this heat. And here are your swimmers. In lane 1, Hunter Fossler. Lane 2, Michael Meinhardt. Lane 3, Eric Pertzak. Lane 4, Chase Ostrakavich. Lane 5, Ronan Please. Lane 6, Bryce Rodriguez. Lane 7, Zachary Geiskin. Lane 8, Trevor Tucci. All right, we're already into that second half of this 100 backstroke, and it's still anybody's game. Ronan Please is technically in the lead, but he's followed closely by Geiskin out in lane 7, and also his other teammate, Pertzak. This could very well be a 1-2-3, unless, oh no, it looks like Olivet's Ariskevich is able to grab onto that third place coming to the wall. So it'll be Please, Geiskin, Aristakis, and Pertzak. That's a very close heat. You have multiple swimmers that are within a half second of each other going into that wall. It just goes to show you that it all can come down to that last 25. We had Ariskevich from Olivet sneaking in there to stop that point differential and giving his team some much needed points. Next event, event 9, the women's 100 breaststroke. So we're moving on to the 100 breast. And here are your swimmers. In lane 1, Mia Ponce. Lane 2, Megan Schroeder. Lane 3, Emily Helgren. Lane 4, Juliet Vega. Lane 5, Emma Wallace. Lane 6, Allison Pearson. Lane 7, Sarah Norman. Lane 8, Lily Brunner. All right, it's always fun to see breaststroke at this level of play. It's all power and guts. And it is a Olivet run right now going into that 50 free mark. You have second, or lane 2, 4, and 6. That's Schroeder, Vega, and Pearson, all basically tied for that 1, 2, 3 position. So Wall of Olivet in this heat. And coming out of the wall, it is, yep, it looks like it's still pretty much a tie. Well, it's anyone's guess which one of these teammates are going to beat each other. All right, we got a better line on the finish here, so it does look like Pearson's going to grab that first place finish, followed by Vega and then Schroeder. So that's a 1, 2, 3 for Olivet. Davenport was able to grab that 4th position. Next event, event 10, the men's 100 breaststroke, 2 heats. So sometimes this is how it happens. We do have 8 swimmers in the next heat, so there's no room at the end for Jake Tarma here. So it's just him and the clock in this heat. In lane 4, Jake Tarma. Mr. Tarma comporting himself very well with a very strong stroke coming out on this first 25. All right, 33.99 for that first 50 split. Looks like he's increasing his tempo, trying to grab a little bit more water here as he finishes. And that's going to be a 1:13.32 for Jake Tarma. Heat 2. So that was called Heat 2. It's a full heat here. All right, a very clean start. Here are your swimmers. In lane 1, Coy Grams. Lane 2, Aaron O'Leary. Lane 3, Mitch Dickey. Lane 4, Liam Kuiper. Lane 5, Richard Polsek. Lane 6, Ethan Huerta. Lane 7, Kevin Mills. And lane 8, John Carlos Fernandez. All right, coming into the 50 here, we do have a 1-2 Davenport combo. So in lane 5, that was Poslek coming into the wall first, followed closely by Dickey. Unless something crazy happens, those are going to be the top 2 finishers. What we're really looking at is that 3rd, 4th, 5th. And right now it is a little bit of a jumble coming off of this 3rd wall here. All right, coming off the wall here, it does look like Olivet's swimmer. That would be Liam Kuiper. He's going to pull ahead a little bit and grab that 3rd place and take it from Davenport's Kevin Mills. All right, so that's a first place finish for Polsek. What a time, a blistering time of 55:30. My gosh, I didn't know breaststroke could get that fast. Next event, event 11, women's 200 butterfly. All right, so we went from muscle and guts to just pure guts. It's a 200 butterfly. Here are your swimmers. In lane 3, Megan Fralla. Lane 4, Taylor King. Lane 5, Chelsea Engelsman. Lane 6, Faith Markley. Butterfly was originally designed as a sprint stroke. The whole idea was getting that body up and over the water to reduce resistance at the expense of fatigue. So 200 is at that upper limit of what the human body can handle for butterfly. So it's a slightly different stroke than you see in the sprint and the 100. You get a little bit longer, a little bit deeper in the troughs there and lengthen out. That way the traps don't lock up on that last 50 when they try to get into the wall and their oxygen is or their body's deprived of oxygen. All right, we're getting into the 100 mark, and it looks like Engelsman has established a pretty good lead here, followed closely by her teammate, Megan Frala. But Taylor King from Olivet is not having any of it. She's quick on the heels of Frala coming into the second 100. All right, top swimmers are about 150 to go here. So that is Engelsman followed by Frala. Meanwhile, King is starting to field, teammates encouraging her, summoning as much energy as she can. At this point, it is pure guts. Every fiber of your being is burning, and these women are feeling every single inch of their muscles. Engelsman finishing strong here for a time of 2:12.71, followed by Frala with a 2:16.24. That's a 1-2 for Davenport. Olivet's going to grab that third place finish with King's 2:25.67. And Markley bringing it in for a 2:34.31. Next is event 12, the men's 200 butterfly. So now it's the men's turn to show their mettle as they engage in the 200 butterfly. And here are your swimmers. In lane 1, Gage Pompilio. Lane 2, Porter Hoffman. Lane 3, Joe Leonard. Lane 4, Ryan Harrison. Lane 5, Alvaro Ruiz de Canas. Lane 6, Michael Quintana. Lane 7, Marco Cabrera Duarte. So these gentlemen are going out a little bit more aggressive. It actually is more reminiscent of a 100 butterfly than a 200 butterfly. And at this point, they've hit a level of conditioning where they're able to hold out almost a whole 200 without having that lactic acid pushback and falling apart on that last 50. So we have Ruiz de Canas hitting the wall first off of that first 50. And he's promising to come into the wall on that second 52, opening the gap. It's almost a body half. No, it's more. It's 2 body lengths ahead of the next 2 swimmers, both from Olivet. So Olivet's Quintana and Harrison are looking for that second and third position. There potentially could be a Davenport swimmer in the mix. Cabrera Duarte might be able to get into that third place slot. But all around, we know one thing for sure. Ruiz de Canas, unless he falls apart on this last 50, is going to hold on to that first place. And that's a blistering 30-second split right smack dab in the middle of this 200 butterfly, and he's not showing any signs of slowing down. Meanwhile, in second place, Quintana is holding on to his position, and he's in fact speeding up. All right, the count is coming in. That is going to be a 1:56.57. And Quintana getting a 2:01.64 for that second. Oh, and Cabrera did grab that third place finish, just edging out Harrison. Harrison fell apart at the end there and succeeded to Papaleo as well. Next event, event 13, the women's 50 freestyle, 2 heats. So that was a really exciting heat. Papaleo there grabbing that extra little batch of points there from Olivet. A good coach of mine did tell me at one point that the swimmer that is swimming the fastest in the last 15 yards is the one that's probably going to win the race, and that was very much the fact in this race. Papaleo held on. He did not slow down. He made it a point of being that fastest swimmer, and he grabbed those extra points for his team. That's a great moment for Mr. Papaleo there. And here are your swimmers for this first heat. In lane 4, Aubrey Velson. Lane 5, Ellie Fontanetta. Doesn't get any simpler than this, folks, but all the more riveting. It's a 50 freestyle, an all-out sprint from wall to wall to wall. And we have Velson here from Olivet posting a 26.81. And we have Fontanetta here coming in on her second half. She's going to finish. So that is technically a PR from Velson from the information we have here. Her seed time was a 27.14. She did make it in a 26.81. And Fontanetta keeping it within 2 seconds of her personal best as well. Heat 2. And here are your swimmers. In lane 1, Camilla Lynn. Lane 2, Norman. Lane 3, Casper. Lane 4, Doibel. Lane 5, Midzik. Lane 6, Norman. Lane 7, Rapside. Lane 8, McBride. Yeah, we're going to do just last names on this one because this is a really fast race, and we're already looking at the finish here. Looks like Norman is going to grab that first place finish. Foul closely. Oh, no, that's Midzik. That was Midzik, followed by Doibel. Next event is event 14, the men's 50 freestyle, 2 heats. So now is the men's turn for the 50 freestyle. 50 freestyle is the hardest thing to really look at and talk at the same time. It's so exciting. You don't quite know what's going on until it's all over. And here are your swimmers. In lane 4, Andrew Coble. Lane 5, Trevor Tucci. All right, these gentlemen are here for the clock. Going to be posting some times. Andrew Coble doesn't have a posted times. 26:33, pretty respectable time, especially if he hasn't done anything else during the season. And Trevor Tucci, he's going to be under 40 seconds here with 38.74. Nice job. Heat 2. All right, get ready for some quick fire, folks. This race will be done before you blink. And here are your swimmers. In lane 1, Stender. Lane 2, Meinert. Lane 3, Whitfield. Lane 4, Carell. Lane 5, Karpinski. Lane 6, Fernandez. Lane 7, Hernandez. Lane 8, Tamar. All right, coming off the wall, here is anyone's game. Whitfield pulling ahead. Let's see if Karpinski can get him. And it's Karpinski in first, followed by Whitfield. 1, 2, and 3 for Davenport. We have a 5-minute intermission. Pool is open for warm-up and cool down. All right, so we are now at our intermission point before we continue on with the 100 freestyle. A lot of these athletes turn around and do the 100 free, so we want to give them a little bit of a break before they hit that second event here.
15 minutes.
And after that 5-minute break, we'll have another 10-minute break for a total of 15 minutes.
The 100 freestylers,
You think? I'm just a dumb distance swimmer. I don't care. All right, so we will be back with a 100 freestyle in 15 minutes. So thank you, folks, for taking a look. We'll be back in 15 minutes for the rest of this meet. Next event, event 17, the women's 100 freestyle, 2 heats. And we're back, folks. We are starting off with the second half of the meet with the women's 100 freestyle. There are 2 heats to this event. And here are your swimmers. In lane 3, Ellie Fontanetta. Lane 4, Mia Ponce. Points. Lane 5, Addison Daly. All right, so we have a sprint freestyle here. Points and Daly racing out, trying to push each other for a good time. It's still anybody's race here coming off that first wall. And it looks like Daly got that first position with a 57.69. And then Daly, who normally goes a 53, posted a 57.69. So there might be something strategic going on through the grand sweep of the season as to why these 2 ladies are in this heat as opposed to the final heat. There's different training cycles as they go through the season. This might be an off meet to prepare them for that end of the season race. Meanwhile, Fontanetta is coming in on her final 25 here. Heat 2. All right, now we're going into the scoring heat of the 100 freestyle, a full heat. That should be something exciting. And here are your swimmers. In lane 1, Jessie Gradler. Lane 2, Emma Norman. Lane 3, Megan Fralla. Lane 4, Haley Briner. Lane 5, Emily Helgren. Lane 6, Kayla Doibel. Lane 7, Abigail Wampler. And lane 8, Megan Schroeder. Right, coming off that first wall here, we have Briner in the lead, but it looks like Schroeder is actually trying to edge her out a little bit there on that far side, outside smoke, followed by Fralla. Fralla having a good wall there, holding on to that 3rd place position, but Schroeder's making a move. She's going to pull out ahead of Briner there, going into that final wall. It's all about those walls. Briner actually had a better wall in that last one, and she's back in the lead coming in. They're hitting that hypoxic threshold right there, using up all their action. So that's going to be Briner, followed by Fralla and Schroeder. Fralla actually edged out Schroeder there on that final stretch. Next event is 18, the men's 100 freestyle single heat. So now it's a men's turn to swim here. And here are your swimmers. In lane 1, Cameron Woodfield. Lane 2, Michael Quintana. Lane 3, Alvaro Ruiz Tacanas. Lane 4, Timothy Brown. Lane 5, Jakub Karpinski. And lane 6, Portier Hoffman. Lane 7, Eric Perzek. And lane 8, Gabe Carell. All right, it's all whitewater here. In fact, we might have a little bit of a wave pool effect coming into the wall here. So still too close to call, but it does look like Ruiz Tacanas is in the lead, followed closely by Karpinski. Now DeConnitz is coming to the wall first. So he's going to get that first place finish, followed by Karpinski and Whitfield grabbing that third place. So it's a 1-2-3 for Davenport on this 100. DeConnitz looking pretty proud of himself there on that finish. That is a 47-20. All right, a slight delay here to afford the divers the ability to dive without having that whistle from the starter. Next event, 19, the women's 200 backstroke, 2 heats. So as you heard, there's 2 heats here. This is the exhibition heat. These ladies are racing the clock and their prior times. And here are your swimmers. In lane 3, Aubrey Veltzen. Lane 4, Abby Christensen. Lane 5, Mikhail McBride. .200 back, a totally different beast than the 100 back. It's still technically a sprint category, but it definitely relies a lot more on that kick base to help stabilize that body with a slightly more relaxed stroke. So we'll see a nice long relaxed stroke out of these backstrokers. It's almost hypnotic. But meanwhile, underwater, you have a lot of turbulence from those legs, boosting them forward. Christensen and McBride obviously training together. Team that trains together tends to split together too, and that seems to prove true here. A quick look at the diving end. We have Laxi Morandette from Davenport in the lead on the diving end with a 141.90 at round 3 of this second half of the competition. Oh, sorry, actually, no, this is round 3 of the first half. So for these collegiate meets, diving does go on a rotation. You have the men on the 1 meter and the women on the 3 meter, and then after a certain amount of dives, they flip. Right now, Lexi does appear to be in the lead on the diving end for Davenport. And into the wall with only 30 hundredths, not even. That's 22 hundredths in between Christensen and McBride for a 216 for both of those ladies. And now, heat 2. So moving on to the scoring heat, we're going to see a little bit higher tempo out of some of these ladies as they work to move the water with their upper body a little bit more as opposed to just their legs as we saw with this heat. And here are your swimmers. In lane 1, Anna Van Heidsma. Lane 2, Maylee Lingy. Lane 3, Rebecca Wallace. Lane 4, Caitlin Inman. Lane 5, Ella Wagner. Lane 6, Paige Howell. Lane 7, Aisha Shank. Lane 8, Rachel DeVries. So as promised, a slightly quicker clip off of the arm pace for some of these ladies here. Coming in the wall first on that first 50 is Wagner with a 31.07 to the feet, followed closely by Howell and Inman. because this race does kind of break in past that first oxygen cycle. You do have to be a little bit strategic on how you put together this race. So they did hold out a little bit, and now they're going to start ramping up on this back end. It's still a 1-2-3 tie in lanes 3, 4, 5. So that's Wallace, Inman, and Wagner neck and neck going for 75 to go. Wagner may have a slight advantage off the walls, but Inman and Wallace make it up every single time on the middle of the lane. All right, now is the time to make their move. It looks like Wallace has increased her tempo a little bit, trying to catch Wagner. Meanwhile, Inman is just trying to stay in that third position behind the two of them. Wallace is making her move here. Let's see where she finishes. Oh, and that was a close one, ladies and gentlemen. Only 0.07 of a second between Inman and Wagner and Wallace. So that's Wagner for first, Wallace for second, and Inman for third. That's a 1-2 Davenport and third for Olivet. Now the men's turn. Event 20, the men's 200 backstroke, single heat. So the men tend to push the threshold a little bit more. They have that power, so you're going to see quite a bit of churning with those arms, a little bit more than you saw in these last two heats. And here are your swimmers. In lane 1, Kevin Mills. Lane 2, Bryce Rodriguez. Lane 3, Ronan Please. Lane 4, Chase Oreskovas. Lane 5, David Sertskow. Lane 7, Ryan Harrison. Lane 7, Zachary Geiskin. Lane 8, Trevor Tucci. So we are seeing a little bit faster hand speed out of these athletes. Please get it into the wall first on this first 50 with a 27.52 to the feet, followed by Mills in lane 1. It's a five-way race right now between lanes 1, 3, 4, 5, and 7. Mills and Please holding that 1-2 position, but then we also have a three-way tie for that third, fourth, fifth position out on the outside there. All right, this is where you're going to start seeing athletes make their move. It does look like Serskow's trying to charge a little bit, or Harrison charging a little bit, trying to get ahead of that three-way tie for that 3, 4, 5 position. And going into the 50, it looks like we have Mills, Pease, and Harrison. Wow, folks, this is going to be a good finish here. Keep your eyes peeled as they come into the wall. All right, Mills has opened up his lead. He's going to get first, followed by Harrison and Please. That's a 1, 2, 3 for Davenport and a fourth for Olivet's Oreskovas. And Geiskin for Olivet for a fifth. Oh no, that's Davenport. So that's a 1, 2, 3, 5 for Davenport. In the far lane, we have Trevor Tucci. He's looking for a top finish here as far as getting a PR. His top time is a 3:18. He just hit the wall with a 3:37 with 50 to go. Right, and here comes Tucci in the home stretch. Tucci has been a mainstay in the Olivet team. We've seen him for the last 3 years. All right, and an excellent finish out of Trevor Tucci in lane 8. Next event, event 21, the women's 200-yard breaststroke, single heat. And now it is the breaststroke. Much like the backstroke, you're going to see longer strokes, lengthening out, trying to have that reduced profile and glide in between the strokes. So it's a lot less effort for each individual stroke and capitalizing on that momentum and glide every stroke cycle. And they're off. Here are your swimmers in this heat. In lane 2, Sarah Norman. Lane 3, Mallory Brownrigg. Lane 4, Julietta Vega. Lane 5, Emma Wallace. Lane 6, Allison Pearson. Lane 7, Cassie Scott. Lane 8, Lily Bruner. All right, and this is going to be an exciting one here. Looks like we have a 4-way tie in the middle of the pool between Vega, Wallace, Pearson, and Brownrigg. Of course, Pearson hit the wall first, but there's not a lot of distance between these swimmers. All right, Pearson trying to open up the gap here on the second 50. Meanwhile, Vega's trying to inch ahead from Wallace and Brownrigg. And now Vega is making a move for Pearson. So Pearson still in that first place at the halfway mark, followed closely by Vega. And then Wallace and Brownrigg fighting it out for that third place position. Looking like Wallace is inching ahead now and trying to consolidate that third place position coming into this wall here with 75 to go. It's remarkable how much power you need to both propel yourself forward, shoot yourself over the water, and then race to get your body back in and pop those hips up. You're activating every single inch of your body throughout the stroke cycle of the 100 breaststroke. Well, and this is the 200 breaststroke, so you can imagine how much more this is burning here on the back end. So we're into that final 50. It looks like Pearson is going to hold on to that first place. And meanwhile, we do have a scoreboard going out because Catherine got it. We're fine. All right, so it does look like Pearson hit that finish with a 2:24.46. Followed by Vega with a 2:28.52. Meanwhile, it's like Davenport snuck in that third place with Wallace with a 2:31.97 and Brownrigg in fourth place. So that's 1-2 Olivet, 3-4 Davenport. And no, ladies and gentlemen, that wasn't an intentional rhyme. I'm just that much of a wordsmith. Next up, event 22, the men's 200 breaststroke, 2 heats. Swimming against the clock here. In lane 4, Jake Tarman. So it's just Jake in the clock here, racing the 200 breaststroke. It really depends on the athlete. Some athletes absolutely love not having pressure. It's just them and the clock, and other athletes really feed off that race experience. Though it looks like Jake seems to be the one that really likes to be him and the clock. He's not suffering any difficulties here, not having anyone else. All right, looks like Tarma is going into that last 50 here, or last 100. All right, Tarma coming to the wall here. 50 to go. Remember, breaststroke activates every single muscle in the body. And Jake is feeling every single one of them now on this last 50. In fact, I think he's changed a couple shades of red since he started. Jake doesn't have any seed time, so this might be a novel time for him, or at least first time for the season. All around, getting under 245 in a 200 breaststroke would be much faster than what I'm able to achieve. And it looks like Jake hit a 244.37. Heat 2. And we're off to Heat 2. All guts, all muscle, and hopefully at the end, some glory. And here are your swimmers. In lane 1, Matthew Monday. Lane 2, Aaron Aguirre. Lane 3, Joe Leonard. Lane 4, Ethan Huerta. Lane 5, Julian Lizea. Lane 6, Liam Kuiper. Lane 7, Marco Cabrera Duarte. Lane 8, Andrew Coble. All right, coming off that first wall there, we have Lizea with a blistering 29.56 split on that first 50. So see these gentlemen charging. They're pulling as much water as they can, pulling themselves up and over the water, crunching their abs to keep their hips high, and then driving their body down and throwing a kick in behind it. I can't understate exactly how much exertion these gentlemen are putting into the water right now. So Lizea holding out that first place, followed closely by Leonard and Kuiper from Olivet. Davenport's Lizea in the lead going into that final 50, followed closely by Leonard from Davenport and Olivet's Kuiper. Meanwhile, Monday and Cabrera are right behind them, trying to get that 4th, 5th position for Davenport. All right, Lizea holding on as he comes into the finish. What's going to be his time? And it's a 2:12.96. followed by Leonard in lane 2 with a 2:17.18 for Davenport, and then Olivet's Kuiper with a 2:17.92. Meanwhile, Cabrera and Monday had their duel off in lanes 1 and 4. Cabrera getting that 4th place with a 2:20, and Monday with a 2:21. Wow, that was an exciting 200 breaststroke. And it looks like Cabrera definitely is feeling it too. He put a lot of work in. Next event, event 23, women's 500 free, single heat. All right, so now it is a 500. Sadly considered a middle distance event here. And here are your swimmers. In lane 1, Camilla Lynn. Lane 2, Maley Lingy. Lane 3, Julia Mitzik. Lane 4, Carly Logan. Lane 5, Chelsea Engelsman. Lane 6, Grace Barnhart. Lane 7, Micah Casper. So like I mentioned before, it's a medium distance event. So there's enough time for a little bit of gamesmanship here. All the swimmers are testing each other out, trying to figure out whether they should pace off each other or try to pull ahead, whether they have enough energy in the tank to hold out for that full 500. Might see a little bit more gambling at this event rather than the 1,000. It's a little bit more generous when you hit that back end. So I have a pretty solid field here going into the first 100. So middle 4 swimmers, Barnhart, Engelsman, Logan, and Mitzik, all staying closely clustered together in that order. And this is where they're making their move. Can't tell whether it was Barnhart Engelsman who made that first move, but now they are fighting each other for that first place position, both gambling that the other is going to overexert themselves and get caught on the back end. Meanwhile, you have Lokens and Mitzik in that 2/3 position. They're holding on pretty well and teasing each other. All right, it looks like Engelsman is trying to pull ahead. So she's about half body length ahead now after that 50. Meanwhile, Mitzik and Logan duking it out for that 3rd position. We also have Casper there in lane 7 holding on to that 5th position for Davenport. That's still worth points, and that may make the difference in a close meet. So we want to make sure that she holds on to that 5th place position. All right, Engelsman making even more distance up to a full body length now. So we have Engelsman, Barnhart holding on to that 2nd place. Meanwhile, it is still very much a race between Mitzik and Logan. And it looks like Barnhart's trying to test Engelsman a little bit. Looks like she's trying to spend a little bit more energy here to close the gap before she gets buried a little too much here. Meanwhile, it is still close for that 3rd place race, but it looks like Logan is starting to turn on the afterburners as we get past that halfway mark and get into the 2nd half of this 500. Engelsman still in the lead with Barnhart holding on to her feet, keeping it within 1 body length. Those walls do matter, and Engelsman is making the most out of each wall. Meanwhile, we got a little bit more of a gap, if by a couple inches, between Logan and Mitzik. Logan just etching out Mitzik, but then again, Mitzik might be banking a little bit of energy for that final push in the last 100. Remember, folks, it ain't over until those last 15 yards, and we might see one heck of a finish here for that third place. Barnhart leaving nothing on the table here. She's putting it all out, trying to catch Anglesman, but is it too much? Anglesman still holding on to just about a half body length, but you definitely can tell Barnhart is trying to burn some energy, trying to make amends going into that final 50. Can she catch her? Meanwhile, looking at that third place, it looks like Logan is making a move, trying to build that gap, but off of that final wall, Mitzik's trying to get him. And it's a race. Looks like Anglesman, it's a challenge on her end. Barnhart making her move. Can she get it? And Anglesman holding on by just barely a second. Barnhart making a strong advance at the end, but not quite. Meanwhile, Mitzik made that charge in the last 50, and she grabbed that third place finish over to Logan. So that's going to be a 1-3 for Davenport and a 2-4 for Olivet. Fifth place goes to Davenport's Casper. Wow, that was an exciting race. You know, a lot of people think that the longer distances aren't any fun, but the gamesmanship is absolutely thrilling, and we saw that at play here. You saw in lanes 3 and 4, Mitzik holding on and making the most of it in the 50, and then Barnhart getting burned by giving up. Next event, event 24, the men's 500-yard freestyle single heat. Now Barnhart giving a little too much space there, and then at the end not being able to make up that distance, even though she had an excellent makeup 50 on that end. And here are your names for the men's 500 free. In lane 2, Hunter Fossler. Lane 3, Michael Nietzelik. Lane 4, Mason Beal. Lane 5, Brandon Petritzen. Lane 6, David Gann. Lane 7, Mitch Sticky. So it's all a gamble here. Like we saw before, you can't let that person get too far ahead of you because you can't catch them, but you can't stick with them too much because it might burn you out in the back end. It's all about balance here. All right, looks like we have a little bit of a mixed bag here. We have Mitch Dickey in the far lane in lane 7 holding out on a lead. Looks like he is very comfortable in that and he's going to hold it on. Petritzen playing with him a little bit. As a teammate, I think he knows what he's doing and he knows exactly how much he can budget Mitch and give him that space. After all, they are on the same team. Meanwhile, Beal is trying to still stay within striking distance of Petritzen without burning too much energy. And Nietzelik basically drafting off of Beal. So there's a lot of lane-to-lane play going on here. Again, I can't understate exactly how much gamesmanship is going on in this 500. It's all mind games, ladies and gentlemen. All right, as promised, Petritzen knew exactly how much space to give Dickey, and now he's making the move. A little mid-race challenge here between the teammates. Meanwhile, Olivet's Beal's trying to stay in the game. He's getting in between that second and fourth place position, solidly locking himself in the third while not expending too much energy. I think he's making a notion that he's going to make enough of a gap between Nietzelik, but not kill himself trying to catch Petritzen at this moment. All right, now it looks like we have a little bit of race going on in lanes 3 and 2. So Fossler is finally advancing on Needslick. Needslick is going to have to make a decision whether he's going to try to hold on to his position or like Fossler expend that energy and then try to catch him a little bit later on. And again, Patritzen hitting the wall first, followed by Dickey and then Beal. Ladies and gentlemen, walls matter. There are 19 flip turns to this race, and we have seen several athletes lose or gain ground based on their flip turn and their underwater off the wall here. In fact, in lanes 2 and 3, we've been seeing positions going back and forth, respectively, between the two swimmers based on their walls. Sometimes Fossler has a better wall, sometimes Needslick has a better wall. All right, right now, Mitch Dickey is probably telling Patritzen, just kidding, I was going out a little too hard on that 50. You can go ahead and take that lead position. Patritzen going out and getting about a body length and a half between him and Patritzen. Meanwhile, Beal is making a charge, setting up a challenge for Dickey. If Beal can ramp it up just a little bit more, he might actually put it a threat to Dickey unless Dickey starts speeding up here. And it does look like Dickey finally got with the program and he's speeding up. Maybe he's going to try to make a move to catch Patritzen. Looking at that 4th-5th position here, we do have Davenport's Needslick and Fossler. Fossler coming to the wall in the lead. Let's see if Needslick can grab a little bit more water here. It's a little bit of race here. Dickey is not going to be able to get Patritzen. Patritzen is going to post a 4:50.09, followed by Dickey with a 4:51.16. Meanwhile, Olivet's Beal is going to get that 3rd place with a 4:58.55, followed by, it's anyone's game here, and it's Needslick getting that 4th place finish over Fossler by 0.02 of a second. We've been neck and neck playing games with each other all race, and it finally came to the last 200s. Next event is event 25, the women's 100-yard butterfly, single heat. I don't know about you folks, but that 500 was fun. And now the women's 100 butterfly. Here are your swimmers. In lane 1, Camille Lynn. Lane 2, Faith Markley. Lane 3, Dominica Rapside. Lane 4, Taylor King. Lane 5, Ella Wagner. Lane 6, Addison Daly. Lane 7, Mackenzie Knowlton. And here's the natural habitat of the 100 butterfly. Remember, originally designed to get the swimmers up and over the water to reduce body drag at the expense of exertion. 100 is right about that threshold where you start failing on that anaerobic threshold. So it's really interesting to see how far these athletes can push it within 100 yards here. Coming into this final 25, we have Wagner in the lead for Davenport. Wagner followed by Knowlton, and then it's a tie right now between the two ONU swimmers, King and Daly. And just as announced, that is your top 4, and Dominique Rabsite in 5th place. Next event, event 26, the men's 100-yard butterfly, single heat. And here are your swimmers. In lane 1, Ronan Please. Lane 2, Porter Hoffman. Lane 3, David Siskow. Lane 4, Michael Quintana. Lane 5, Eric Pertzak. Lane 6, Ryan Harrison. Lane 7, Richard Polsek. Lane 8, Michael Meinert. All right, looks like we have a little bit of race here on our hands in lane 3. We have Siskow followed closely by Quintana. Both Siskow from Davenport, Quintana from Olivet. Looks like Postulek from Davenport also making a charge here. So it looks like at the finish here, it's going to be Siskow in that first place. Postulek for Davenport in the second. And it's a third place for Davenport. Pertzak squeezing out Quintana. So that's a 1-2-3 for Davenport. Quintana for Olivet getting that fourth place. What a race. Pool is now open for warm-up and cool-down. We have a 15-minute break before we resume. All right, if you didn't hear that through the PA, we have a 15-minute break here before we resume with the 200-yard IM. So, ladies and gentlemen, stay posted. We have the final couple events of the meet. You don't want to miss it. right. Looks like the sound was turned off there. Sorry about that, folks. That was one heck of a couple events here that you probably were able to watch, but not hear. But trust me, the commentary was riveting. You just had to be here to hear it. Anyway, coming into the wall here off the backstroke in lane 5 is Davenport's Karpinski, followed closely by Olivet's Fries. Meanwhile, in lane 7, Olivet from Davenport is holding on to that third place as we go into 75 to go on that breaststroke turn. And going into the freestyle there, Karpinski pulling out into the lead over Rodriguez. Azeo is holding on to that third place position, followed by Stender. And it's going to be Karpinski in lane 1 with a time of 1:57.37. Then Olivet's Fries, Davenport's Lazea in third, followed by Davenport's Stender and Papaleo. Again, Davenport showing a very strong presence on the men's side of this competition with a 1-3-5-4 finish. An exceptional amount of points there. Next up, event 31, the women's 200 freestyle relay. Freestyle relay, sometimes called the free lay. Give a moment to be quiet for the start. And they're off. Here are your teams. In lane 3, Davenport, Casper, Frala, Lynn, and Knowlton. In lane 4, from Olivet, Schroeder, Vega, Ponce, and Pearson. In lane 5, from Davenport, Midsick, Helgren, Schenk, and Wallace. Lane 6, from Olivet, King, Logan, Inman, and Doibel. In lane 7, from Davenport, Brownrigg, Rapside, Gradler, and Van Heitzma. All right, first swimmer already into the wall here, and second swimmer almost to the far wall. We have ONU in the lead. Their A relay posting a 25.50 on that first 50. They're widening that lead going into their third swimmer, followed closely by Davenport's A relay. All right, getting into the water now. That's going to be Schenk against Inman. Inman in lanes. Oh no, that's Points. So Points and Schenk duking it out. Looks like Points was able to make up a little bit distance. And it's going to be Olivet. Olivet with a 1:40.28, followed by Davenport. And ONU grabbing that third place, those much needed points for that third place finish. Davenport fourth and fifth. Next event, event 32, the men's 200-yard freestyle relay, single heat. All right, it is the final event of the evening. Just want to make sure the field settles before we get going here. It's going to get very loud here in just a moment. But here are your swimmers. In lane 3 from Davenport, Polisek, Dickey, Petritzen, and Geiskin. In lane 4 from Olivet, Hoffman, Brown, Beal, and Fries. In lane 5 from Davenport, Mills, Pertzek, Whitfield, and Ruiz de Canas. Lane 6 from Olivet, Aristarchus, Hawerda, Rodriguez, and Kuiper. In lane 7 from Davenport, Monday, Niedzalik, Leonard, and Grams. All right, we're already on our second swimmer here. And I really can't tell with all the white water who's in the lead. But coming off the wall here, it does appear that Davenport A is in the lead. So that's Pertzek giving off to Cameron Whitfield. Cameron Whitfield in the water trying to open it up. Meanwhile, the B relay from Davenport, that's Brand Petritzen making a move, trying to get that second place position now. Petritzen edging out Beal. So he's going to beat Beal to the wall here, putting his teammate, Jack Fries, in a good position to grab. All right, so it looks like Zachary Geiskin is going to try to hold on, try to grab that second place. We already know that Davenport's Alvaro Ruiz de Canas is going to bring it on home, getting that first place. And it is going to be Geiskin grabbing that second place for Davenport. So that's going to be a 1-2 for Davenport, followed by Olivet A in third. What a finish. So we do have some time trials in the mix here. So those will be in about 5 minutes. All right, sometimes officials have a mind of their own, and it looks like they're running the time trial because they want to get out of here. So it looks like McBride is in the water right now. She's going for the 50 free. And she's going to post a 26:20. Next up is Michael Quintana for 50 free. So after these time trials, we are going to have our final scores here. So we have Michael Quintana here going for a 50 free time. And Quintana hitting a 22:04. Jean Carlos Fernandez, 100 freestyle. And our final time trial of the day, Jean Carlos Fernandez. He's going for a 100 time. And that's going to be a 25-20 to the feet on that first 50. He's splitting out to about a 52-53. Let's see if he's splitting accurately. And that's going to be a 53-03. It looks like his teammates are pretty happy about that. I think that's the time he was looking for. So that's it with the swimming portion. We're going to pull those scores real quick and have those announced in just a moment.
Very good thank you for all the spectators that made their way over here to watch us today. We'll see everyone in Leeds and have a wonderful and safe trip home.
All right, and here are your final scores for the evening. On the women's side, Davenport University 160, Olivet 132. On the men's side, Davenport 215, Olivet 64. And combined overall, Davenport 375, Olivet 196. Very warm thank you to everyone who stuck around to watch this meet, especially after we had a silent mic for that first little bit there. We appreciate you tuning in, and until next time, keep things swimmingly.